Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
Joshua Shrum. He is a very talented steward, very knowledgeable.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. This is one of those podcasts where I listen to every episode. I love what he's putting out there.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. Josh Shrum.
Parcels of knowledge. Does a fantastic job with that podcast.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God. We need Article 8 scholars right now.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.
Good morning and welcome back to Parcels of Knowledge, the podcast dedicated to delivering knowledge to the city letter carrier with your host, the Roseville Wrecking Ball. Today, I am still sick, but if you thought you heard enough of me,
too bad.
Yeah, that's right, too bad, because the wrecking crew had their vote, and they said that we should continue on with the episode. So, today is Wrecking Crew Wednesday. That's right, these badass individuals that support the podcast, and of course, it has grown in numbers. If you want to know what the Wrecking Crew is, it's my Patreon members. You can donate between $1 and $50 if you feel like this podcast gives you value. And it's just a value for value system. I usually use it to reinvest into the carriers. I had giveaways and things like that. Most of the money, I'd say, goes back into the podcast to buy my equipment and pay for my subscriptions, which, by the way, are getting higher because I got to upload larger amounts of content. Like, for example, I had to increase my Podbean limit because I recorded over 16 hours in a month. So these subscriptions are getting more and more expensive, but I appreciate you guys and thank you for everything you do to keep the podcast growing. I appreciate it. You guys are badass individuals. Without further ado, let's recognize those guys. Rick Steiner, ER, Tom Perry, Philip DeGilio, Chris Angeloff, Amy Tyvan, Ryan Ackers, Edmund DeVore, Miziel Guzman, Paul Saranowski, Jamie Gregory, Neil Beckman, Shannon Marsbarger, Kenneth Grigsby, Benjamin Shellhaas, Joni Weber, Still Stacks, Self Care, G Whiskey, Daniel Pitts, Mark Allen Kennedy II, Jason Munn, David Grosskopf, Unfortunate VP, Abraham Askar, Corey Walton, Tyler Christopher, Lino Miranda, Anthony Arthur Robinson, Angel, The Activist, Obi Tynes, Roxy B, and our new members, Kathleen Rocky Connors and Kirby Franklin. That's right. We salute you guys, and I look forward to having our Wrecking Crew Roundtable first Wednesday of the month. Now, we do have Anita Guzik coming on Saturday. We might be recording that one a little bit early, depending on the situation. I got to call her because my schedule has changed. So it's either going to be recorded early or late. So make sure you get those questions in to me, please. I need more questions. You guys got to get some questions in. rosevillewreckingball@yahoo.com. Send those questions in. She's running for Director of Retirees. I'd like to get her on record, have her investigative interviewed. So without further ado, let's move on to the regular topic. The topic that the Wrecking Crew has chosen today is improper mandation and pivots and how they complicate each other. So let me just tell you the situation, because I get a lot of people talk to me about this. And they say, hey, Josh, or hey, Wrecking Ball, what would you do in this situation? And the situation has happened in my own station plenty of times. Now, I kind of knocked it off, but it still happens occasionally. And that situation is, let's say management assigns a carrier 8 hours. And then they say that 8 hours is less than 8. Their own route is 8 hours. It's less than 8. And I'm going to give you a pivot. And, regardless of how that conversation went, whether the carrier said, hey, I can't do that, or hey, I can, let's just put that aside. We know that's pretty garbage that they would do that to us in the morning. Well, then the carrier does that pivot, and it turns out they go 30 minutes over. And now you got a situation on your hand of improper mandation because the carrier went over 8 hours, and now the ODL has a missed opportunity, and the carrier was essentially forced, even though, here's the complication. The carrier did not do the reporting requirements. At no point in time did the carrier inform management that they were going over 8, other than maybe in the morning. That's kind of a problem. We got reporting requirements for a reason. And not putting management on notice complicates Article 8 grievances. Because how are they supposed to avoid going into overtime for non-ODLs if you don't inform them that you'll be going into overtime? First of all, let me say this. Carriers, you need to inform management. Let's not complicate these grievances. Send them a text, even if it's on the scanner. Send them a text on the scanner and say, hey, I'm going to go over 8. What do you want me to do? Ask them for your instructions. And follow those instructions. Unless, of course, they're conflicting instructions. Then we'll talk about that at a different time. But if I run into this situation, there is a way out that I've determined that I've used locally, and they've bought that argument locally. And I don't know how well it would work at Step B or anything else, but usually management, when you meet with them on this grievance, they'll say, well, I didn't know they were going into overtime because the carrier didn't inform me. Well, I would pull up the M39 and go to section 127F. Section 127 is office work when carriers return from the route. And it says the carrier unit manager must observe and direct carrier's activity. When carrier return from the route, observe things such as, item F is assign work to carriers who are under time. So what I've been telling them is, look, you gave them this pivot in the morning. Obviously, you don't know how to do math because you gave them more than 8 hours of work that day. Of course, I know they have the reporting requirements. I'm not going to deny you that. But that's a story for a different day because you can do what you want with that. That's a matter of them not doing the things that they should have did. And that's also alleged. That's what you're telling me. I don't know for a fact that what you're saying is true. But what I can tell you is the M39 stipulates the only time when you should assign undertime. And that's when the carrier returns from the route. Article 3 states that management has the right to manage unless it conflicts with other articles of the contract. So what you did that morning was assign overtime in an undertime status. So like you called it undertime, but really you were assigning overtime. You were violating the contract. And you were violating Article 8 by assigning that. And it was due to your mismanagement. You did not understand that this was more than 8 hours worth of work. You should have understood. And in order to avoid a violation of Article 8 in the future, all you have to do is what the M39 says. Assign it after the carrier returns from the street. In that scenario, there's at no point in time could it be your fault that they went into overtime status because you're waiting until their job is complete before you understand how much undertime they have. Your projections in the morning, they don't really cut it. So that's the way I would cut the pie there is the assignment of undertime is an office function of management in the PM. You can argue that this is because to be properly facilitated, management must first know of the undertime, which won't occur until after the carrier finishes their assignment. You really don't know. Every day's different. I mean, although it's not expressly stated in the reporting requirements of the M41, they're built around whether a carrier can finish their assignment without overtime. This is inferred in the controlling document, the 3996, being tailored to giving off parts of your route. It's not tailored to incorporating pivots. There's nothing in the 3996 that would indicate a carrier has to let you know if it puts them over. Now, don't get me wrong. We normally do encourage you to put that in your 96 anyway. But the reporting requirements and the 3996 are basically built so you can determine whether or not you have enough time to finish your assignment, not your assignment plus a pivot. That's why, in those boxes it says, across the boxes that these shelves that are associated with the part that you're giving off. Management has the right to manage, but they also have every right to avoid improper mandation by either scheduling undertime in the evening, like the M39 says, or otherwise expressly instructing carriers not to go over 8 hours after giving them their pivots. Now, whether or not Step B will buy that argument, I haven't yet to test it. But, this one's going to be a short one today. I'm still sick. I'm sure that you guys will enjoy that because I've been putting out way too many episodes. But I just want to address one more thing. So I had a carrier reach out to me, same carrier with this Article 8 grievance. Their postmaster's taken over the Informal A for Article 8 specifically. And they're trying to tell this carrier, the steward, that prior to meeting on these grievances, the Article 8s, that the steward must inquire through an interview with the carriers whether or not that carrier met the reporting requirements. I just want to tell you guys, if your management is telling you how to build your case, that's bullshit. They're there simply to meet with and approve your requested remedy. If they have opinions of their own that would change the remedy in order for you guys to come to an agreement, that's fine. But essentially, if they think you didn't build enough burden and you think you did, bring it to the next step. Tell them, look, I don't care. We are the moving party of the grievance case file. It is an action only the union may initiate, and especially in a contract case, it's fully the union's burden to prove. Management has no business telling you how to build your case file. So with that being said, tell them to either approve your proposed remedy or you'll be moving on. It's as simple as that. They're not allowed to tell you what you need in order to prove a violation. Now, don't get me wrong. If that's a stipulation for them to agree to the remedy you proposed, maybe you should decide to give them that information depending on if it's worth it to you. If you think you could prove your case without that information, then don't do it. It's the steward who gets to decide what needs to be included in the case file to prove the burden, not management. But hopefully you learned something valuable today. And as always, have a good day.
If these guys are getting educated, we will be in big trouble.
Management's been weighing you down like a bag of wet catalogs, but you don't gotta take it. You strap on the elbow of education, dig it?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God, we need Article 8 scholars right now. The grievance genius, the Roseville Wrecking Ball, doing amazing work.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.